First thing I want to talk about, let's talk about that Star Wars trailer that was dropped during the Super Bowl. We haven't even had a chance to get in here and talk about that. I know there's been a lot of huff about that. Frankly, like, I don't think it's a big deal. I understand what they wanted to do. Did they succeed? Well, if succeed was to get people to talk, sure. If succeed was to get people super excited for the movie, then I'm going to say no, that was not success. You know, it was a silly, fun, sort of Super Bowl type commercial. And look, nobody ran full trailers during during Super Bowl. It's too expensive. So, I mean, a lot of people ran like 20-second teases pointing you to a trailer online. They could have done that, or they could have run that little teaser they ran the day before they dropped the trailer. But look, you know, they ran something. The idea was fun. I just, for whatever reason, in the climate that we're in with entertainment, it just flew over like a lead balloon. And it is what it is. Do I think it hurt the movie? No, I don't think it hurt the movie. But did it help it? Also, no. It got a lot of people talking, but not necessarily in the way you want them to. But, you know, it's one of those things. And of course, you still have to pick your way through the legitimate criticisms. You have to pick your way through the mire of rage to find the legitimate criticisms. I certainly don't fault anybody that has criticisms about that trailer. Like, did I mind it? No, not really. Like, but also I don't think it served any real purpose. I would have rather, I think the problem was people were anticipating something real, tangible, something that was part of the movie. And of course, there's a lot of misunderstanding. I've seen a lot of, this movie looks terrible. Well, sorry guys, that clip's not from the movie. In fact, we got the trailer this week, yesterday morning. It looks pretty good. The color grading is looking, you know, improved, in this trailer versus the first teaser. A lot of good action. I don't get the, I don't know. I've heard a lot of odd complaints. First of all, the complaint that's, oh, it's just going to be like another episode of the show. Well, okay, an episode of the show with a bigger budget. Like, let's not pretend like this is the first thing to do that. They were able to do this with a much lower budget than anybody's really been making blockbuster movies for. It's going to make money. You know, that's the upside. I would say the biggest problem with it so far is that the marketing's just not been good for it. Now we may really see the marketing ramp up. That's the other thing is, there's been a lot of complaining about the marketing, but you can start that too early. And frankly, I mean, we're still 3 months out from release. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they've blown their opportunity to market this movie. I don't, that may depend on what they do, but we're just now getting into the normal time. They're on a relatively normal release schedule for trailers, 3 months out. So yeah, I'm not getting that criticism. I'm also, you know, I heard a lot of, oh, this is just going to be it's just going to be basically a filler episode of the TV show. And look, I know this is something everybody's got a different opinion on, but like, on one hand, there's a lot of us that keep calling for more a throwback, you know, adventure of the week, monster of the week, think X-Files, think Stargate, think Star Trek. You know, you can have arcs within the story, but like, it's those weekly adventure movies, and that's really obviously. I mean, they could not be more direct about what they're going for with the very serialized action adventure type tone that they've really laid out for this movie, which is this is Star Wars. And if you think that that's somehow inappropriate for Star Wars, you don't know your Star Wars history, and you don't know where George Lucas came up with the concepts. So I don't mind the serialized action adventure, but on one hand, we can't scream, give us adventure of the week type storytelling and then call those things filler when they don't complete the arc. This is, I mean, at this point, obviously we have an entire generation of viewers that have had their idea of the way this stuff works warped by streaming services. But look, I mean, it's where everything's got to be, 10 episodes and it's got to tell me a cohesive story. Most of the greatest television series, science fiction in particular, fantasy as well, which, is more in line with Star Wars. It's your serialized adventure, your new adventure every week. That's way more traditional storytelling for the genre. They've had cohesive arcs through the story, but I think it sucks that a lot of these adventure stories, adventure episodes, these standalone bottle episodes, if you will, get torn down as filler. There's several problems with that. One, like, I want standalone episodes, Adventure of the Week episodes. I also, those standalone episodes, as long as they lend development to your character, I don't agree with calling those filler. Sure, there may be one here or there, but I'm not sure how you classify a movie as a filler episode of a series. And look, it's Jon Favreau, and it's not like they brought Rian Johnson back to make it. It's Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau makes good product. Jon Favreau is a great filmmaker. He's a great storyteller. He's had a great concept all along. Like, I guess the problem is that now we're going to sit here and look, even if you want to take season 3 of The Mandalorian, toss it aside. Like, I'm not going to fight about it. Like, it's better than a lot of people let on, but it's a different show than season 1 and 2. It's narratively doing a different thing, which is fine. I think they told a story they needed to tell. If the Mandalorians are going to play any role in the future of the galaxy, like, we needed to tell that story. So I don't have a problem with it. And I don't know when we started complaining, about Bo-Katan showing up. And, when did we start getting upset about Katie Sackhoff showing up in something? Like, okay, whatever. The Mandalorian and Grogu looks like a lot of fun. They're leaning heavy into a lot of the aliens, which is great. That's something that I always am excited to see more of. It's something that some of our best Star Wars, even some of the better Star Wars we've had since Disney took over, have excluded doing a lot of aliens. This one's doing some aliens. I'm excited to see Zeb back. There are obvious things that there are things that need to be answered, and I don't know how or when or if they're going to answer them. Baby Yoda, Grogu, is 50 years old and still a baby, and How long do we drag that out? And it's one of these things it's okay for the species to remain somewhat mysterious, but to put one in the story at this point in time, we have to answer some questions, right? We can allow their place of origin to still be a mystery, the name of their species to still be a mystery, but we have to move that plot forward. And at this point, I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going for. I guess the way the time's going to work out, I hope that what they're going for is that aging the character is going to be a little more of a metamorphosis rather than a lengthy, like, oh, now he's teenage, Grogu. Like, no, I think we need a moment, or we just jump forward in time. I don't know if we're ever going to even see this character again beyond this. I think that there's a possibility that Jon Favreau is going to be moving on from Lucasfilm after this. I know he's got another season of the show he would love to make, but, and look, now that Filoni is fully in charge of the creative, maybe they come back and make that, but maybe that season 4 no longer works, in lieu of this movie. So I'm not sure what the, path forward for, Grogu is, but I feel like they owe it to the fans to give us something. And maybe they do in this movie. Hey, Nick, thanks for jumping in the chat. Other things that look good. I mean, I guess to me, it looks like a fun movie. That's all I'm looking for. My kids are super stoked about this movie, which is always going to be a win around here. If the kids are excited about it too. I just don't understand a lot of the complaints. Like, and I'm not willing to pretend that The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 weren't absolutely phenomenal storytelling. And I don't think that I've seen a lot of talk about, oh, they're going to kind of like pretend that season didn't happen. Well, that season kind of gets to be its own little side quest, right? It's its own thing. It's like they took a whole season and did a side quest. So now we come back to the Mandalorian. He's going to go back to being a bounty hunter, but for the New Republic. Mandalorian season 1 and 2 are tremendous episodes of television. They're some of the best Star Wars that we've gotten. Let's see if I can get my computer to not update drivers right now. I guess I just don't get it. Mando season 1 and 2 were amazing. They were great. Everybody loved them at the time. For some reason, I guess because of season 3, it's in vogue to kind of hate on them right now. Let's see. Nick says, I've been polling all my customers about the Mando trailer during Super Bowl, and overall it's been positive, and surprisingly many of them had no idea there was a movie coming and didn't know. That's the other thing is, like, I think that there's a lot of, I think for a lot of people that was sort of a like, hey, there's those characters again that we kind of know about. I don't think that generally speaking, people I've talked to offline had a negative reaction to that trailer. Or it's not really even a trailer. It's just, just a funny little gimmicky ad to put the characters on screen. They weren't ready to release the trailer. Didn't want to pay the money to release a 2-minute trailer. I mean, that's, over $30 million to put that trailer on. So I don't blame them for not wanting to do that, especially when they've been trying to keep budgets in check. That can escalate your budget real fast. But yeah, it's interesting because, as usual, now, how well will this movie do? I don't know, because these are characters that a lot of more casual fans just don't know. Like Nick said, didn't know there were Star Wars shows. Yeah. I mean, if you're not on Disney Plus, I mean, you may be, completely unaware. And, unfortunately, you've missed some pretty good stuff. I mean, there's been some real stinkers. I would say there's been one just plain bad show in the Acolyte. And then there's been a handful of mediocre shows that had a lot of potential and they just kind of didn't really get there with it. Things like Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan had a ton of potential and then they just kind of botched some of it. I think it's got some great scenes in it, but overall it's mediocre. And I would say the Ahsoka series, I would kind of go back and forth whether to say that's really great or kind of falls in the mediocre category. I would say it would be at the top of the mediocre heap for me or at the bottom of the really good stuff. But The Mandalorian, season 1 and 2, season 3 is better than a lot of people let on. I really enjoyed it. Most people I've talked to that aren't in the online world that watch the shows absolutely loved it. I see Backyard TARDIS here says he loved loved season 3 of Mandalorian except for one episode. Nick, let me know what episode that was. I'd be curious about that. I'm sure we talked about it, but it's probably been some time because we've been waiting for so long for new content here. But then you've got Andor season 1 and 2, which I'm just going to say, they're not traditional Star Wars, but they're very Star Wars. But they're a different flavor and they're not going to be for everybody. Star Wars for everybody, Star Wars that should, Skeleton Crew, just absolutely phenomenal. And I'm going to come back hopefully tomorrow or Friday, depending on how things work out. And if I'm able to get back here in the studio, talk about a potential season 2 of Skeleton Crew and what I think that means. I'm really excited for that, the potential of that, especially if John Watts is coming back, who is proving to just be a tremendous storyteller. But you've got Andor season 1 and 2. Season 1, I'll admit it, and I said it all along as it was coming out. The first half of it's really boring. It's a lot more talking than anything real happening, and there's some moments in there, and it's good character development. In retrospect, I can go back and I can enjoy the character development more now, knowing that it did eventually take off. But I think with The Mandalorian, Andor, and Skeleton Crew, you've got some absolutely tremendous shows for Star Wars. And then, like I said, you got a whole bunch of stuff like, all the animated stuff, and then you've got some other shows that are hit or miss, but I think overall are okay. But I would like to see, I like that Grogu's little pod is significantly faster than the scooters from Book of Boba Fett. I don't know. I'm really excited for this. And if nothing else, it's because it just looks fun. It's not going to take itself too serious. I keep seeing people say, oh, well, it's Star Wars for little kids. Well, I think it's traditional Star Wars and that it's meant for family. But, let's not pretend that, Mando's not putting people down in the trailer. And I don't know. It's just there's so many complaints about so many small things. I guess I get frustrated when people are unable to follow a story when something is not told on screen. It's Mandalorian has a Razor Crest again. It's and everybody's like, well, how did he get that? That blew up. So what are we and they don't understand. And it's y'all, it wasn't the only one. It was heavily modified for his use. But, the thing about, car guys, they like to build and, they rarely stop at one. Obviously, he was in a different ship for a little while. I expect to see the N1. Hopefully, it's still around. It's a really cool ship. But we end season 3, again, going back to we have season 3. It's its own quest. Now we're coming back and we're going to pick back up with Now we're a bounty hunter again. And so now we need an appropriate ship for a bounty hunter. So, I don't think it's all that crazy that he would suddenly have a Razor Crest again. Plus, it was a cool ship. And I think by doing things like that, they're trying to signal to people, hey, like, we're going back to a little more season 1, season 2 flavor with this new season. So, I don't know. Trailer looks like a lot of fun. I'll be back to talk with the kids about it one night this week. They are all very excited for it. I know some people are tired of the whole the whole Baby Yoda thing. It's like, look, I get it, but like, also, I'm willing to give them a chance to give that story either a true send off where it's kind of okay if we just don't see that character again, or set that character up for something in the future and kind of explain some of the things you haven't explained to us. And we may or may not get this and that in this movie, but I'm kind of hopeful that we will, especially if Favreau's on the way out. I think he's going to want to fill in those blanks. There's a lot of, I'll be curious to know, sort of as we move forward, kind of get into promotional stuff with the actors, with the directors, exactly how much. I mean, I expect a Favreau product, but I expect it to be what a lot of the Mandalorian traditionally was, which is a heavy dose of Dave Filoni. And I think, and I'll keep saying it, I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni is a real good combination for storytelling. Because Jon Favreau is one of the best filmmakers alive, and Dave Filoni is a good storyteller and doesn't necessarily always translate his story to screen well, especially in live action. I mean, that's obviously where some of the other stuff struggled, where Ahsoka struggled a little bit was in, he could have used a little more help from an experienced live action filmmaker. Live action and animated is just different. But overall, super excited for the show, or for the movie, rather. I'm excited to see what we have coming out, promotional stuff. We should be starting to get interviews over the next couple of months. It's going to be interesting. And hopefully it's good. And the good thing is they kept the budget in check enough. I don't really think there's any way for this movie to fail at the box office. They're going to have to go out and do something real stupid between now and May 22nd. Super excited to have a movie drop on a Star Wars drop on my birthday again. Anyway, back on the traditional weekend. So that's exciting. And I know Starfighter is next May. So really excited about that. Let's see. Nick. I didn't like the episode where Din and Bo help a planet continue to live with droid slaves. It was an anti-Wally story. Is that the Jack Black episode? Chris Lloyd, all them? I'll be honest, I'm kind of like, it's kind of all shuffled. I need to rewatch a lot of it. If that is the episode, then yes, that, I know which episode you're talking about. I'm just wondering if I'm in my head mixing it with another one. But yeah, that one was unnecessary. It's, as I said, season 3 was kind of already its own side quest. The side quest didn't need side quests. So it is what it is. I'm hoping to see, I want to know what characters we're going to see show up here. I know that there's a lot of, that's the episode. That episode had a lot of problems. I'm really not sure. I'll be honest, Nick, I kind of wondered if that was a reworked, repurposed script from like Clone Wars or something, like a Rebels or something, because it just, the everything about that episode was a little off. It just didn't fit. Hey there, sci-fi fans. We hope you enjoyed this clip from a previous episode of the Science Fictionary podcast. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to find out next time we go live. You can follow us over on Twitter at sci_fictionary. You can drop us a line at thesciencefictionary@gmail.com. And if you want to get involved at our Discord, hit me up at one of those places and I'll get you plugged in over at the Discord too. And until next time, may the force be with you.